The Fantastic Jungles of Henri Rousseau, written by Michelle Markle, illustrated by Amanda Hall. Henri Rousseau wants to be an artist. Not a single person has ever told him he is talented. He's a toll collector, he's 40 years old, but he buys some canvas, paint, and brushes and starts painting anyway. Why? Because he loves nature. Because when he strolls through the parks of Paris, it's like the flowers open their hearts, the trees spread their arms, and the sun is a blushing ruby, all for him. Henri can't afford art lessons, so he has to be his own teacher. He goes to the Louvre and examines the satiny paintings of his favorite artists. To learn about anatomy, he studies photographs and illustrations from postcards, magazines, and catalogs. One day, Henri reads about a big art exhibition. He puts his canvases in a handcart and wheels them to the building where the show will be held. He's 41 years old, and this is the very first time he'll display his work. He can hardly wait to hear what experts will say. Mean things, that's what most of them write. But Henri snips out the articles anyway and pastes them in a scrapbook. Henri walks around the city gathering ideas for his pictures. He goes to the World's Fair, where a man named Eiffel has built a lattice tower of metal rising several hundred feet into the air. What thrills Henri most are the fair's exhibits of villages from distant lands. They remind him of adventure stories he loved when he was a boy. Days later, Henri can still picture the plants and animals from faraway places. He holds his paintbrush to the canvas. A tiger crawls out. Lightning strikes and wind whips the jungle grass. Sometimes Henri is so startled by what he paints he has to open the window to let in some air. Every year, Henri goes back to the exhibition to show new paintings. He fusses over the canvases and retouches them until the very last minute. And every year the art experts make fun of him. They say it looks like he closed his eyes and painted with his feet. Henri keeps painting and learning. In the fall, he collects leaves from the cemetery to sketch. He spends hours drawing at the Jardin des Plantes, where, oh, happiness, a gardener sneaks him into the hothouses. Towering palms spread their giant fans, tropical plants fruit and flower into garlands, rockets, and rosettes of color. When Henri walks through the glass doorway, it's though he's entered into a dream. It's like he's someone else completely. One day, Henri paints a still desert night, bathed in moonglow. He sees a gypsy sleeping. A lion creeps up, but does no harm. Once again, he takes his work to the art show. This time, perhaps, he'll please the experts. His pulse races. The experts say he paints like a child. If you want to have a good laugh, one of them writes, go see the paintings by Henri Rousseau. By now, Henri is used to nasty critics. He knows his shapes are simpler and flatter than everyone else's, but he thinks that makes them lovely. He spends all he earns on art supplies and pays for his bread and coal with landscapes and portraits. In the afternoon, he takes off his frayed smock and gives music lessons. His home is a shabby little studio where one pot of stew must last the whole week, but every morning he wakes up and smiles at his pictures. Henri turns 61 years old. Because of his poverty, he'll never travel to a real jungle. It doesn't matter. He sees one before him, clear as day. For weeks he fills in his jungle, tenderly shaping every fern, every frond, every blade and leaf. As always, when Henri finishes the painting, he takes it to the exhibition. Many experts mock him. One says only cavemen would be impressed by his art. But this time, several artists disagree. The artists are much younger than Rousseau and are already well known. They befriend him, and whenever Henri has money to spare and stages a concert in his little studio, all the artists come, along with the grocer, locksmith, and other folks from the neighborhood. They listen to Henri's students and friends play their musical instruments. Henri gives the shiniest, reddest apples to the children. One night, a well-known artist named Picasso throws a banquet for Henri. The old man sits upon a makeshift throne. Poets read poems for him, guests sing songs and make speeches. Henri plays his little violin, and people dance to the music. His heart floats like a hot air balloon above the fields. Towards the end of his life, Henri makes a remarkable painting called The Dream, his biggest ever. And as he does every year, he displays it at the exhibition and anxiously awaits the reviews. A famous poet writes, "I don't think anyone will laugh this year." Few people do. 100 years later, the flowers still blossom, the monkeys still frolic, and the snakes keep slithering through Henri's hot jungles. His paintings now hang in museums all over the world. And do you think experts call them foolish, clumsy, or monstrous? Mais non. They call them works of art, by an old man, by a one-time toll collector, by one of the most gifted self-taught artists in history, Henri Rousseau. Okay, we just finished reading The Fantastic Jungles of Henri Rousseau, written by Michelle Markle, illustrated by Amanda Hall. And for our art project today, we're going to practice drawing a jungle. So for supplies, we just have copy paper and really just two things, a green magic marker and a green crayon. I'm going to show you some fun stuff we're going to do with that in a second. But I always kind of like to look at some plants that look like they could grow in a jungle. So this is some kind of fern. And this is a big plant, might be called like an elephant ear, but this looks really tropical. Looks like something you would find in a jungle. And then we have another smaller little fern. All right, so some of the paintings that Henri Rousseau did, especially his paintings of jungles that we're going to be inspired by today, some of them have animals or sometimes people, but for ours, we're just going to start with doing plants. So this is just one way to draw a jungle. If you have a different way you want to do it, go for it. And if you have other things of other shades of green, like more than one type of green crayon, that would be really fun, because the more diversity you have, the more variety, it's going to look a little more realistic. But here's just kind of an easy way I show people that you want to get started to do your jungle. So the first thing we're going to do are we have our paper vertical, and we're going to do some long, wiggly vertical lines. Okay. And I'm going to do 5 because, so I like to tell people, in nature, I'll put one here, things are not even, things are not symmetrical. Nature likes things to be asymmetrical, to be organic. But we have our 5 wavy lines. These could become trees, they could be vines, they could be the stem of a plant. I'm going to show you a couple different leaves you can draw. The first thing we're doing is we're going to draw like an outline with a marker, because I don't think it's a good idea to color in with a marker. If you're just using a marker and you use that to color in your leaves and plants, it doesn't have a lot of variety, for one thing, and also I don't like it because it uses up your marker. It makes your marker dry up. So we're just using the marker for the outline. Okay, so let's look back. That first one we did that was kind of a fern, an easy way to do that would be to make that kind of middle part of the plant and then come back and draw the little parts of the fern on it. And just coincidentally, this is also a good way to draw a feather if you're using a feather for something else, and if you had brown, this would look like a feather. But I don't want to stop there. I want to go back and do the little tiny leaves. This is so fun, doing all the little details. So then you're doing just little stripes. I hope everybody can see this. So you have the little parts coming off, and then I'm just doing little things on the sides. Okay, I'm gonna do some more. And I am probably not going to sit here and make you watch me do all the little leaves on the fern, but you get the idea. Okay, I'm gonna stop there for now. All right, next one. What was one of the other leaves that we saw? We saw those big kind of elephant ear leaves. Those are kind of fun to do because come and make your big leaf shape. And if you can see in this original one, it has, those are called veins, the lines that go down. But remember, I'm just gonna do it as an outline. And I'm not gonna color this in yet because I'm gonna come back and do that with my crayon. This is just kind of, the marker's darker, it's bolder. Okay, I'm gonna do all my outlines and I'm gonna color at the very end. Then we have these little ferns. Those I could kind of do quickly. Because I'm gonna do those over here. Because, and maybe that's not a fern, but it's kind of a fern shape. Again, it has that middle part and then it has just long leaves that come off of it. This kind of looks like a feather too, doesn't it? Some people think this is really relaxing. You're doing original art, you're not copying anything, but you're doing kind of these repeated patterns. And you might have a completely different idea. Like I said, your leaves might look completely different, but if you're just gonna kind of repeat those down. All right, another one that's really easy to draw that looks kind of like a vine is you're just gonna make little leaves that look heart-shaped. And I'm just kind of alternating, just drawing little hearts. I'm gonna color these in later. Everybody can draw a heart, right? You kind of start to draw a circle and you go kind of to a point. And vines usually go all the way down. All the way. All right, I've got one left. What else should I do? That's kind of fluffy. This one I might just do, I want all of them to be different. So this one I might just do kind of a small leaf. Kind of an almond shape or an eye shape, and I just have that vein going down the middle. Okay, so good outline, good enough. I am going to draw a few more of these because I want to see how that's going to look when those are all filled in. Okay, I can finish those later, but you get the idea. All right, now I get to do the fun part. I get to do the coloring in part. Put my marker down. Now I've got my green crayon, and I'm just gonna come in anywhere there's white. See how cool that green looks behind there? It's a different shade of green. This one is, well, my crayon is broken. Yellow green, it looks like it says. If you have more than one color green, that would be really cool. That would look fun. Right? What else needs to be colored in? My little heart leaves. Just have fun with this. Don't worry. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you color a little bit outside of the lines, that is not a big deal. All right. And you know what's kind of bothering me right now? I have these top of my plants that are just kind of hanging out by themselves. I'm gonna make a leaf up there. Same thing with this one. I want this to have a little ferny thing. When you're drawing, if you don't like something, you can always keep adding to it. I'm not crazy about erasers. That's why even when we use the graphite, if you noticed last time, I did not use an eraser. Because I feel like if you just keep working, you can get it to look the way you want it. Okay, I like that better now that those sticks or the vines are not just hanging out by themselves. All right, let me color this in. Okay, I need to color in these leaves. So you can imagine how good this would look if I had some more green. What about colored pencils? If you had a green colored pencil, in fact, I have some supplies here on the site. Oh, look. Let's see if there's a green in here. These are oil pastels, but I think there's a green. Aha! I'm going to use that one too. That would be fun. I just like to have that variety. Okay, I think I got pretty much all of those done with that. I could come back with this, and just to give this a little different look, it's going to look kind of softer. I'm going to just take my pastel and I'm just adding some more of those little leaves coming off. I'm just kind of drawing a little stripe in between. See how that looks different? It's almost the same color, but it's softer because it's a pastel. We used oil pastels in the Picasso project. Okay, also, I could come back and just do just a little coloring, just really lightly in between my kind of ferny leaves. Also, I don't think we talked about this yet, but think about what makes a jungle a jungle. It's really lush, it's really full. We live in the desert and sometimes our plants don't get that tall, but in the jungle they have two things. They have lots of rain and lots of sun. And so the plants grow almost up to the sky. In some of Rousseau's paintings, you almost can't see the sky. It's all plants. And like I said, if you want to come back in and put some animals in here, if you wanted to add another color with some flowers, you could do that. Rousseau sometimes has people in his. You could do that. All right, so much fun. I could keep going. I'm going to stop for now. But don't forget, when you finish, artists typically put their signature in the bottom right-hand corner, so be sure and sign it. And if you enjoyed this and you want to keep going, flip it over and do another jungle on the back, because this is really fun. And good luck with your jungles.